Shalom. It seems like we've come to a crossroads of sorts where there are two opposing forces battling it out. On one side, we see those who are in power who seem to be attempting to create the fulfillment of a prophecy. And then on the other side, we see the Most High making his moves to fulfill his stated prophecy. What I'm referring to is that a lot of people are starting to say that this whole little virus thing is going to basically be the catalyst to lead to the whole mark of the beast scenario that is predicted solely in the New Testament. The whole where a person will have to accept a mark on their hand, either on their hand or on their head or something like that. Now, I've seen a lot of compelling evidence that things are trying to go that route in terms of things that certain officials are saying that need to be done to fight the spread of COVID-19. Certain little new technologies coming out. A lot of it would seem that, yes, we're headed in that direction, but we have to consider who is truly driving that train. Now, when you read the Old Testament, the Tanakh, you see that there is an end time prophecy there as well. But nowhere in the Tanakh's end time prophecy do we see anything about a mark of the beast. Do we see anything about someone having to have a mark on their head, on their forehead, or in their arm, or something like that? We don't see anything like that. We see a completely different end time prophecy, one that establishes the Yisra'elites. See, that's what I notice about the New Testament. When it talks about its end time prophecy, it's not even considering God's people, chosen people. It's just basically saying everybody. There's no distinction. All this is going to happen to all the people. That's basically what it's saying. As where in the Tanakh, you see that what's playing out, what's prophesied to play out. You know, the Israelites are very significant in that. It's telling you what their fate will be. So this is just like one of those situations where one of the many elements where we see this contradiction between the New Testament and the Old Testament. So it's like, which ending do you believe in? Do you believe in the mark of the beast and all that different kind of stuff that the New Testament shows you in the book of Revelations? Or do you believe the ending that is depicted in the Tanakh? That depicts and details the true people of Israel returning to their land from their captivity, where they were being hounded and persecuted and tormented. They return home because the Most High said he would bring them back. And his word does not return void. Nowhere in the New Testament's ending do we see that play out. So what I'm thinking is happening here The powers that be are the ones that are attempting to create the fulfillment of the New Testament's end time prophecy. Basically, what they're doing is basically what the New Testament has done this whole time. They are creating a false prophecy. They are attempting to fulfill a false prophecy. One that is not being pushed by the Most High. One that is being pushed solely by them. This prophecy, when you really look at it, when you look at, for instance, when you look at Revelations 20, verse 4. And in this verse is talking about the souls of the people who were beheaded coming back to life. What we're seeing here, the gist of the Revelations end time prophecy can be boiled down to this. All the people who believe in Jesus are going to die horrible deaths. That's basically what the Revelations end time prophecy says. Everybody that believes in Jesus Christ is going to die a horrible death. Okay. But of course, Revelation goes on to tell you that after all the killing is done and Jesus returns, he'll raise his followers back up to life. Now, if you ask me, I'm not a gambling person, but I would think that that's one hell of a gamble to take. Because when you look at this from a different perspective, if I were to attempt to force everyone away from any form of religion or concept of believing in a God or a higher power, the way I would do that is basically say, you're all going to die for your beliefs. Now you're going to have people that'll say like, well, they're happy to die for their beliefs. But that's not going to be the response for most people. Now, these people, the powers that be, the people who have been controlling this world for their allotted time. I've said it before, and a lot of other people have said it. People who have some kind of understanding and can see basic things. Their whole purpose in existence is to undo what happened at the Tower of Babel. If you go back and read in Genesis, mankind, before the incident that happened at the Tower of Babel, was one people with one language, one purpose. So basically everybody talked the same and everybody had the same, pretty much the same goal. And we can kind of conclude that everybody pretty much thought the same as well. Now, this was something that the Most High found an annoyance. So he broke everybody up. And the way he did that was by twisting people's tongues up so that everybody spoke a different way. You know, hey, I mean, when you think about it, if you have a group of people, if you have a group of 100 people, and you want to break that group of 100 people into separate groups of 5 separate groups of 20, just, change the way they talk. Change their language. You know, give them 5 different languages for each 5 set of 20. And those people will isolate themselves amongst people who talk like them. So we know the separation of mankind was the Most High's intention. It was his desire. These people want to undo that. So their whole purpose is to remove all boundaries. Language is a boundary. And so they're using technology to remove that. You have language translators on your computer. You have language translators on your cell phones. As this technology becomes more invasive into the human body via implantations, you'll eventually have language translators possibly embedded into your eardrum, where what you hear is instantly translated into the language that you truly speak. So someone can speak Japanese to you, but the way you hear it, due to the language translator that was embedded into your eardrum, you hear it as English. So basically everybody would be able to speak their own language, but everyone would basically be able to understand everyone. You know, no need to learn a new language. So it's all about destroying the barriers and boundaries that keep us a separate people. That's one of the reasons for the whole swirling deal, the whole interracial relationship deal that's been literally jammed down our throats. See, there's one or two things. There's only one or two type of relationships they want for our people now. They either want you to swirl, or they want you to be homosexual. If you're not willing to get with a person of another race, then they pretty much just want you to be gay. The option of you staying with your own people is one that they do not want for us. They don't want it for anyone, really. Because the different races represent a boundary. Another thing that has been a boundary for the various people of this world throughout the history has been religion. The different religions have separated the people of this world for centuries. And so they want to get rid of that too. Now you might think, oh, it's good that they're getting rid of all these false religions and false idols. But the problem is, the reason why they want to get rid of religion is because it represents a boundary, not because of the false idols or anything. In fact, they want to get rid of the concept of God, the Most High, of any kind of God. They want to get rid of that completely. You know, they don't want us to consider anything. They want us to consider ourselves gods. The worship of man. So that's really the destruction of these boundaries is their primary goal. So when it goes back to the whole idea of the Christians dying, these people will start to create that prophecy, the fulfillment of that prophecy. They'll do it themselves. You know, the whole ID chip, the whole, mark of the beast, the chip implantation. They'll make that all happen themselves so that it can be seen as the fulfillment of the prophecy to us. And then when they get to the point where they start trying to fulfill the part of the prophecy where those people who are Christians who reject the mark start being killed or dragged off to prison. You see, that event will cause everyone else to abandon Christianity altogether. It'll cause everyone else to abandon religion, period. You see? When they see what happens to these people who believed in it. Now, where do we factor into this? Now, see, this is where I think our whole role in this is going to be a bit different than everyone else's. Because technically we're not Christians. We don't adhere to a Christian faith. We are a people. We are a bloodline. So I imagine, considering, you have to understand these people, they know the true prophecies. They know what's really ordained to happen. They know what the Most High is truly ordained to transpire on this planet. So I think, and when you consider that, when you look at the prophecies concerning us in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament, it basically revolves around the destruction of Babylon, the destruction of their current new system. So I imagine they'll probably, unless it's one of us who has not truly abandoned Christianity, they'll probably try to tiptoe around us. That's what I'm thinking. Because our prophecy does not talk about us being killed in mass. Now it does talk about Jacob's trouble. Where we'll be having problems, but it has nothing. It does not say we'll all be killed off. Now, does it? For our beliefs or anything. And there's some debate about Jacob's trouble anyway. Like, is it something to come, or have we been experiencing it and stuff like that? I think Jacob's trouble, I don't know, it's going to be something probably kind of nuanced with us. It's like we lose our power when we give ourselves over to these false religions. So I can see those of us who, like I said, are still holding on to Christianity to start having some serious problems during that time, But for those of us who, was just straight up say, "No, I ain't no Christian. I'm an Israelite." Now, I think it's going to be a different story for those of us who say that. They'll have to take a different tactic with you. But regardless of what tactic they take with us, the outcome is going to be the same. Their whole system is going to be destroyed. And they're going to be fighting amongst themselves. And I can easily see that happening once they get to the point where they are trying to round up Christians. I can see that being the moment when basically a civil war just starts. You know. So while they're trying to fulfill their own made up prophecies from the New Testament, their efforts will start the fulfillment of the prophecies from the Old Testament, which, like I said, basically prophesizes the downfall of Babylon and the Gentiles who have been our, persecutors and oppressors turning against each other and killing each other. So you can see how that kind of can all come together right there. Something has to be the catalyst for that prophesied civil war that the Old Testament prophesies is to happen. Could it be just the implantation of the chip that causes it? Could it be the, trying to take the guns? Or could it be some kind of situation where Christians are hauled off to concentration camps? Something is going to spark a huge civil conflict here. Something is. You just know it. And that plays perfectly into the prophecies in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh. That does not play into the prophecies of the New Testament. And I find it seems just so funny, so asinine. I see people commenting on YouTube and they're just talking about, they got the FEMA camps, they got guillotines ready, they're gonna kill off everybody. I mean, it's like, okay, so you actually think people are just gonna sit here and let folk get dragged away to the FEMA camps to die? You think that's just how it's gonna go down? I mean, it's just I think I mentioned this in another video, how these people who believe in the New Testament, they also have some extremely silly beliefs in general. It's like they believe in cartoon characters or something, I mean, it's very silly. It's like none of it. Even if it's a speculation, it's like a speculation that's not even based in any kind of reality. But I think that's just the kind of spell that New Testament scripture weaves on people. It kind of puts you in a daydream. The Old Testament, when you read it, it has a far more logical tone to it. Things make sense. But when you get into the New Testament, and you read about people walking on water and taking a few loaves of bread and feeding 1,000 people and stuff like that, it really kind of opens this door of extremely fanciful thinking. It very much does. I mean, there's some miracles that were performed in the New Testament that even the Most High didn't perform in the Old Testament. I mean, it's but I don't know. But I do think that The attempt to fulfill these Christian New Testament revelation end time prophecies by the powers that be will be the catalyst that causes the true end time prophecies of the Old Testament to come to fruition. That's what I'm thinking will happen. Because people are not going to accept. I mean, it's so well known, the concept of a mark of the beast. Oh, a chip embedded in your hand, a chip embedded into your forehead. It's so well known. Everybody knows that. So whenever they start rolling that out for whatever reason, and then they try to start making it mandatory, saying that you won't be able to go, you won't be able to buy anything unless you got that. You actually think people are going to sit still and take that? And be like, oh, woe is me? Especially here in America, where people still have guns and are buying them by the day. No matter how much these politicians say they want to get rid of guns and going to take them away, people are still buying guns. I went to the damn gun store the other day. I saw more black people in that gun store than I ever seen in my life. In a gun store. So ain't nobody intimidated by a damn politician talking about they gonna take the guns. Ain't nobody scared of them. The only thing that people are doing are going and buying guns. So with all these guns around here, you think people gonna sit back and tolerate not being able to buy things and stuff like that because they refuse to have a chip or something implanted in their body? No, that's the kind of shit that's going to get folk fighting. So that's what I think is going. It's very interesting when you think about it. It's very masterful how the Most High has this set up. He literally has these people in a situation where their attempts to create their false reality will bring about his prophesied reality. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, anyway, I would say just keep watching what's going on. We're seeing the tempo of this whole COVID thing pick up and the response to it. We have cities declaring state of emergencies. We have looming medical martial laws being proposed. We're starting to see praise be given to China for their extreme crackdown. You know, see, this is all part of the plan. You know, they're going to make China the poster boy. You know, they're going to make China be like, this is how you get it done. They were faced with a grave challenge, and they met the challenge head on. They did what they had to do. They quarantined 50 plus million people and locked down locked down their entire part of the country. So they're going to promote China's response and how it solved the problem there, while they continue to criticize America's response by not being willing to quarantine thousands of people, by not being willing to shut down an entire city or an entire state. They're going to try to make people mad about their continued freedoms. You know, the best way to lure a person, the best way to get a person to put chains on is to make them want to be enslaved. So basically, with this whole COVID-19 agenda, they'll sit up here and be like, if only we were quarantined, it wouldn't have spread this far and that far. If only they had locked down those people there, it wouldn't have spread over there, it wouldn't have spread it over here and everything. You see? So they're going to start demanding their rights be taken from them for safety's sake. Yep. I think that's probably about what they're going to try to do with that. And you could tell, you know, it's like they telegraph it. They telegraph their moves. If you really just listen to them, look at what they're praising and look what they're not praising. They're praising China. They're not praising America. So they're not praising America not locking people down. They're not going to praise that, but they're going to praise China, and they're going to praise what's that other nation? I think it's Italy, who locked down pretty much their entire country or something like that. See, they're going to praise all that. They're going to praise the lockdown. They're going to praise the taking of rights away. They're going to say that's how you get it done. And the whole purpose of that is to get people, like I said, to want to have their rights taken away. Because, you know, it's the safest thing for them. But like I say, it's not going to stick. It can't. Because if all that sticks, it does not factor into the Most High's prophecy. It does not factor into the prophecies of the Tanakh. Yes, it factors into the prophecies of the New Testament, but we know that's not the real deal. The Tanakh is the real deal. So expect these methods to basically lead to a whole lot of mess popping off here. Shalom.